And when I was leaving that university, Dr. Charles O. Stewart said to me, I know you're going into the business world, which I was, but he said, I think that one of these days you'll change your mind, and I think you should think about the stage because you have talents that will lend themselves to a success in that.
And as I was leaving that college, Dr. Charles O. Stewart told me, I know you're going into business, which I did. But he told her, I think you'll change your mind one of these days. In the meantime, you should think about the state because you have skills that will help you succeed in some way. In the 1940s, Dana Andrews was a star in Hollywood. He played lead parts in well-known movies like Laura and The Best Years of Our Lives. Then, in 1972, he did what looked like a normal TV interview. But something went wrong. Everyone in the business was shocked by what Dana said on live TV. His phone stopped ringing after 24 hours. Studios put him on a ban. His agent let him go. That interview video was hidden for decades. It's now come to light. What Dana told you about the biggest stars in Hollywood will leave you speechless. Carl Dana Andrews was born on January 1, 1909, in a small Mississippi town called That doesn't even exist anymore. He was the third of 13 children. Charles Forrest Andrews, his father, was a Baptist preacher who was always looking for a new job. Anna Speed, his mother, raised the kids while he was away at school. They lived in Mississippi, Texas, and Kentucky, but they never stayed in one place for long. The family finally stopped in Huntsville, Texas, when Dana was 9 years old. He and his family were poor when his dad took over the First Baptist Church and Dana started going to Sam Houston State Teachers College. As a child, Dana picked cotton and did other farm work to help out. That kind of childhood didn't give him much room to dream, but it did prepare him for the realistic, emotionally complicated guys he would play on screen. Things were even stranger when no one was around. Dana saw his father preach messages of hellfire and fury against sin, drinking, and temptation. In his spare time, though, the man drank and struggled with the same bad habits he warned against. It hurt to see how hypocritical they were. In Dana, it broke his blind trust in authority and made him feel rebellious. The conflict between what people see and what they really think never really went away. It would show up in his movies and follow him around in real life. There were problems with his father that were hidden by his charm, and Dana felt that early on. Later, interviews and his own works showed how these early wounds changed him. He always remembered how a man could hide a lot. He tried to stay on a straight road. He went to Sam Houston State to study business, but had to drop out when his money ran out in 1929. He was only 20 years old. He got a job in Austin with Gulf Oil and makes $100 a month. Not bad for the time. It felt like a trick, though. He didn't need a desk. He needed something bigger. He only had $40 with him, so he hitched a ride 400 miles to Los Angeles in 1931. It was a dangerous move. There was no job lined up and no roof guaranteed. When he got there, he had to do hard survival work. Putting in ditches, picking oranges, and filling up gas tanks. He did work for anyone who would pay him. He never gave up on wanting more, though. He met a man who liked something about him at a gas station in Venice. The owner said he would put $50 a week toward Dana's dream of taking singing lessons, so they can get a cut of any money they make in the future. In the 1930s, deals like that didn't happen very often. Dana took it. He worked odd hours and learned opera and elocution at night. He worked hard to go from being a Southern laborer to being able to command a stage, but it took a long time. He tried to get into the Pasadena Playhouse but was turned down. In the end, he applied again. Still no. He worked as a soda jerk, kept pumping gas, and studied more. It broke Dana's heart when his wife Janet Murray died of pneumonia in 1935, just a few days after giving birth to their son David. She was 24 and he was 26. He was a father who had lost his wife and was trying to follow his acting dream, but it hadn't worked out yet. But tragedy broke something open. The Pasadena Playhouse finally took him in that same year. He worked like he was on fire. He was in more than 70 shows between 1935 and 1938. At first, he had small parts, like a waiter in The Women and a supporting role in Shakespeare, but he stayed late. He looked at every move. He saw how coming stars like Robert Preston did on stage. A talent agent saw him when he got a bigger part in a play called O Evening Star. Boris Morros told director Samuel Goldwyn about him. Everything changed in that one moment. Goldwyn hired Dana in 1938 and paid him $150 a week for 7 years. In the 1930s, that was real money in the United States. Goldwyn didn't give out movie parts right away, though. He told Dana to train for a year at the Playhouse. Dana kept doing well and getting better. But the deal didn't say that he would get paid unless he was in a movie. He did other jobs like driving buses and digging ditches until he got his first real chance. In 1940, his first movie, The Captain is a Lady, didn't get a lot of attention. It wasn't given credit. Later that same year, though, he got a strong part in the Westerner where his character is lynched. It scared people. Something about the way Dana played both weakness and defiance at the same time was interesting. Critics took note. He began to play real parts. From Lucky Cisco Kid to Sailor's Lady, he played a detective and then a strict officer in Tobacco Road for RKO. His deal had been broken. Goldwyn sold 20th Century Fox half of the company, so Dana was moved around between companies and had to learn quickly, adapt, and build something. But in 1941, Dana did something that almost no actor would have thought to do. He wouldn't come to work until Goldwyn gave him more money. If someone acts that way, it could end their job. Goldwyn sued him and asked for $50,000. He turned down Dana for big parts and put him in B-movies like Swamp Water instead. Some people in the business world said that Dana went too far, but Dana didn't back down. He used Swamp Water as a test, and his success there only added to his image as a tough guy who can do anything. It wasn't fancy, but it was true. Later that year, he got a big break with Howard Hawks' Ball of Fire, in which he played Joe Lilac, Barbara Stanwyck's character's tough mobster boyfriend. The movie was smart and funny, and Dana gave a strong performance. It was a big change. People saw that he could play risky. But something else was getting ready. Out of view. Talks of what Dana drank spread. People saw him drinking more at parties than they did before. The stress of quick success. Studio deals, long hours, and the death of his wife. It all added up. His real life began to get as complicated as the guys he played in movies. It wasn't that loud in the room, but Dana Andrews had a great handle on the screen. And in 1943, when the world was getting more and more at war, he did a crash course and became a naval captain. He looked like he had salt in his blood. The story of Latine CMDR Dwayne Connors wasn't just made up for fun. The Navy let the movie crew use its real submarine base in New London, Connecticut. From July to November 1942, crews shot. They did not use models, but real subs. One was the experimental submarine USS Marlin, which was changed to look like the made-up USS Corsair. There was Tyrone Power next to him. He was only a few days away from joining the Marine Corps for Real. But Dana's job was to show the truth on TV. That truth included PT boats, which were Elco-style ships that were used in the Atlantic to hunt down Nazi pirates. The movie used scary events, like how a patrol in Greenland in 1941 took over German weather stations. A lot of it felt real. That's why people didn't just watch, they thought. Dana wasn't just another actress by the end. People thought of him as a war hero. In the fall of that same year, he was no longer in uniform, even though his own battles had just started. In the Oxbow case, his name was Donald Martin, and he was going to die. When someone is wrongly accused, they are in danger of being lynched. He asked them and God to forgive him, and read a letter to his wife in the quiet time before he was hanged. That movie hall in 1943 had people who cried out loud. Some people said it was heartbreaking, but it was more than that. It really touched a nerve in the American mind. That the law wasn't always fair. That anger could put out even a quiet man like Martin. Stephen Andrews did not scream or shout. His strength came from being quiet. And that there was a mark of silence. He wasn't in any movies that year. He was just heard. On December 7th, Dana's voice didn't belong to someone who was still alive. He told the story as the ghost of a sailor who died at Pearl Harbor. The short documentary film by John Ford and Greg Tolan didn't hold back. It was very violent. It was very angry. Dana's voice was still, though. It told the story from the point of view of death, not success. People who had lost kids in the Navy were in it. A lot of different kinds of looks, black, white, and Hispanic, were also killed because war kills everyone. In 1944, the short film won the Academy Award. But more than that, it was one of the few times when lies and pain went together. Dana didn't scream patriotism in her words. The next year, he came back to the big screen as Latin CMDR Edward Moulton in Wing and a Prayer, a movie that was shaped by how crazy the Battle of Midway really was. It tracked a plane carrier and the crew that rode on its deck into battle. The truth hit hard. There were long stretches of silence between seeing an enemy and the tactics. A lot of what was said felt true. Dana brought his own life into the park, based on what he knew and what he was afraid of. The title came from a popular song about how desperate U.S. Navy pilots were, and the movie felt the same way the whole time. So good that it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Script. On screen, Dana seemed calm, collected, and brave, but something was going wrong behind the scenes. A lot of men became stars in war. It also left Dana Andrews open to attack. He was starting to drown while everyone else was cheering for him. Even though he had been drinking before, it got worse during those hard wartime shoots. He would leave after night shoots. He wouldn't always show up. Leaders spoke in a whisper. Co-stars were scared. In 1940, he'd already been jailed for drunk driving. Now, in the middle of his breakout years, the addiction was beginning to press down harder. Fights started behind the scenes. Rumors of near-violent outbursts followed him. Still, he kept playing. He kept coming even though it was hard for him. After many years, Dana would be honest about his drinking problem. He told his story in public and joined the National Council on Alcoholism. It didn't happen often in Hollywood. Vulnerability wasn't often allowed, but he knew what silence could do, and he decided not to be silent anymore. Then Laura came out in cinemas at the end of 1944. It made Dana Andrews live forever. He played Detective Lieutenant Mark McPherson, a guy investigating the murder of a woman he'd never met, but somehow loved. Laura's portrait, made by Frank Polanyi based on Gene Tierney, wasn't just a prop. It was an easy way to become obsessed. People were shocked when the story changed and she wasn't dead at all. The movie won an Oscar for Best Photography and made $2 million at the box office. The movie was dark and full of desire, and Dana was in the middle of it all. And David Rexon's theme, which he wrote after losing his own love, turned the whole story into a sad, slow dance. It became well known in jazz. It was being recorded by musicians all the time. The movie was kept in the National Film Registry for many years, but the performance, People's Bones, kept it alive. Dana went into something darker in Fallen Angel, which came out the next year in 1945. He played Eric Stanton, a drifter who kept secrets and had a lot of rough edges. The character gets involved in murder and lying, and the fight in court was the best part of the movie. Trouble wasn't just on TV, though. Dana didn't even want the part behind the scenes. Daryl Zanuck told him he would be fired if he didn't take it. She had a big comeback role, but she quit the business for 16 years after her scenes and theme song were cut. Darnell played the female lead, and Dana had a great relationship with her. The movie wasn't as well known as Laura, but it made his image stronger. Someone who always looked like they had too much on them. In 1946, The Best Years of Our Lives came out. It wasn't just a show. As the country tried to heal from the war, it was like a mirror held up to every home. Dana played Fred Derry, a soldier who came back from the war but couldn't find work, peace, or himself. At the time, $23 million was a lot of money for the movie. 7 Oscars were given to it. The movie with the best music, the best editing, the best writing, and the best acting and supporting acting. Dana didn't win, but he didn't need to. He walked right into Daisy Kenyon like he was sick of hiding. Dan O'Mara was played by Dana Andrews. He was a married lawyer who was torn between Daisy, played by Joan Crawford, and Peter, played by Henry Fonda. But people saw something else behind the polished courtroom scenes and whispered affairs. They saw a man who was shaky. In 1947, the movie came out, and America was still getting used to peace. Gender roles were changing, and life at home felt unstable. Dan's double life wasn't made up. It made me think of Dana's marriage to Mary Todd, which began in 1939 but was already falling apart. You could see the stress in his eyes and hear the distance in his words as he thought about what to do. Some critics said the act was honest, even if it was too honest. Otto Preminger liked to let players bleed on screen, and this time it worked. It really felt like a mess. The sadness wasn't shown. In the same year, he took on Boomerang and led the fight for justice. It feels like a second skin. Dana played Henry L. Harvey, a state's attorney in Bridgeport, Connecticut, in 1924 who was under a lot of pressure to find a guy guilty of killing a priest. The real case was a mess. A fake ID led to the wrong arrest of war hero John Waldron. People were so angry that someone had to pay. Andrews played the part with a calm defiance that showed a lawyer who was willing to fight politics and public anger to do what was right. The story was taken from Reader's Digest, but shooting in Connecticut made it seem more real. There is no Hollywood shine. There is only quiet tension and a guy trying to keep his soul whole. People never did find the real killer in the end, but Andrews made the mystery feel good. He wasn't supposed to win. It was clear that he was right. Then, in 1948, the Iron Curtain went up. As a Soviet defector named Igor Guzenko told Dana about a Russian spy ring in Canada, Dana went after him. There was a lot of fear during the Cold War, and Hollywood knew where to put its cameras. Andrews